mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near. Awesome. You guys did great. How are you feeling? Feeling good? Feeling motivated? Feeling ready for part 2? Okay, so part 2, we're going to put you to work. Around the room are the problem themes that we named, right? Mission and vision, exceptionalism, pride and confusion, suspicion, absence of mutual accountability, grief, loss, and ending, fear of open conflict, separation, and institutional fatigue and erosion, and grief, loss, and ending, if I didn't say that one. I'm wondering if we have some volunteers in here who would read through what's on the sheets. Read a problem. Nicole, will you read us mission and vision?
When the vision is unclear, our struggles become our mission. Without a clear, renewed sense of shared mission, there is not a collective way to refocus, regroup, and move together as a greater whole. Focus gets placed on influenceable, albeit important, efforts, Sunday services, smaller groups, caucuses, tasks. Although these places are meaningful and are or were once mission-oriented, they are not tied to our renewed collective mission together. Exceptional aspirations can become a substitute for mission. We have a grand vision for the world and we can do it without strategy or shared language for getting there.
Who would like to read exceptionalism?
Exceptionalism. Exception of greatness or perfection, grieving the gap between our realities and perceptions. As individuals, we have feared being wrong or bad. It feels safer to be seen as good and right. Goodness and rightness also take the shape of being or acting certain about anti-racism, shared ministry, good governance, worship, or the way something should be. Collectively, there is also a tender sense that our congregation was once or is great, and a leader, especially in anti-oppression and justice work, and should be further along.
Who's got pride and confusion? Let me get my steps in today. You notice I don't have my boot on, so I can get steps now.
Pride and confusion, anti-racism, anti-oppression, multiculturalism identity. We lack a clear, renewed, shared understanding of what anti-oppression means to the congregation. There is a feeling of losing the thread of congregational conversation and effort after many years and iterations. Calling Reverend Soto was a moment of collective joy and excitement about who we want to be, a group that is willing to do learning, risk-taking towards a radically inclusive community. Yet there is also a sense that there were not the systems, practices, or shared language in place from the beginning to fully work together with mutual accountability and responsibility across multiple oppressions and congregational roles. Sense of expectation and tension with what should be as an Oakland urban justice-oriented congregation with a legacy we are proud of.
Who's got next? It is suspicion.
Suspicion of, unclear power and authority. Lack of clarity about who has what power, especially the minister, why and for what reasons. Legacy and identity of shared ministry is a source of pride, and yet this also lacks a clear, renewed, shared understanding of what it means. Acknowledgement that our history of shared ministry across multiple ministers feels confusing and challenging. There is a subtle tension. When shared ministry is raised as a value, it has reflected a certain suspicion or limit to formal power, even as it longs to be a request for deep collaboration and trust.
Thank you. Who's got next?
Absence of mutual accountability. Accountability as the practice of deepening relationships through shared information and responsibility to one another. Lack of community agreement about how to give feedback that is actionable and relational, not a unilateral opinion, evaluation, judgment, or request/demand for compliance. Lack of clarity about how feedback is received, integrated, and acted upon, or what happens when someone does not do what they agreed to do. Without trusted communal systems for feedback and accountability, people may believe feedback has not been received unless it is complied with, which leads people to continue giving feedback or to experience the institution of leader as non-responsive. Combined with confusion and pride about anti-oppression and the fear of being wrong or bad, there is not a collective comfort or practice with rigorous mutual accountability across identities and multiple oppressions.
Who's next? Fear of open conflict.
Fear of open conflict and disagreement. It feels scary to disagree with each other. We fear disagreement might lead to being seen as bad, wrong, broken relationships, or a broken congregation. Fear leads people to act nice or do the right things, but not be real with one another. Fear leads people to seek out folks they do agree with and not listen to folks that might disagree with them. Fear causes leaders to try to handle conflict quietly, politely, for fear of making something even worse. When people do get real, it can come out sideways and in unofficial capacities, venting, gossip, small groups, caucuses, private conversations, deepening our sense of separation.
Thank you. Separations and silos.
Separations and silos, us, them. People experience the same congregation, sermon, minister, service, dynamic very differently due to identity, life experience, as well as access to power, information, and congregational communication. Fear of conflict heightens the differences and enclaves. As separations increase, amidst unclear authority, accountability, and conflict, us and them dynamics emerge. With an increase in us and them, there is a feeling of resentment, harshness, and stronger enemy images and blame of one another. It becomes harder and harder to be vulnerable.
Institutional fatigue and erosion. Institutional structures that once worked, governance, leadership development, etc., feel untended, tired, or unclear. Institutional memory becomes held in certain bodies, people. Newcomers feel the vibe is off or feel recruited to sides, leads to less volunteers. With less volunteers, the usual people continue to pick up the work. Although there is gratitude, the capacity lessens, leading to resentments, burnout, similar approaches and techniques. As leadership looks exhausting or challenging, fresh or grounded energy hangs back. As institution fatigues and relationships feel brittle, there is less capacity and willingness to share information or engage issues that might increase potential conflict. When folks do reach out to a fatigued, stressed institution, it feels unresponsive. When the institution feels unresponsive, it may be experienced as untrustworthy. Combined with unclear authority or accountability, efforts to make things happen emerge ad hoc around the official structures without clear authority or accountability to mission and people.
And the last one, grief, loss, endings.
Grief, loss, endings. Loss of people, ministers, relationships, momentum. Sense of not knowing what to do with or how to accept the many losses, endings, changes, including losses and endings that are much older than the present conflict. I have barely held it together. I have held it against myself. I have held myself back from you. I have held it against other people.
Thank you. Those are the themes that Reverend Sam and I uncovered from our small group meetings with you. How do they sit with you? Do they feel familiar? Do they feel like, I don't know who these people were looking at, that's not us? Do you see yourself in them? Do you see places where you have been carrying that particular stone? Either its impact, or maybe you've been the one impacting others. These are the questions that we want to think about today in the workshop. We want to hear from you, how you are experiencing these problems, these themes, and how you're carrying the stone. How will you begin the healing accountability work that goes along with seeing these themes? So today, in this workshop portion, we're going to become friends with these problems. We're going to be working with them for a while, with these stones. We're going to make them our own. We're going to own them rather than defend against them or say that why that's not true or why you have it wrong or she has it wrong or they have it wrong, that we aren't like that, I'm not like that. And we're going to risk closing some of the gap between how we have presented and what's actually alive and happening here with us as individuals and with you all as a community. To do that, I need to ask you to do 5 things. And 5 things! And they're going to sound familiar. Number 1, trust me. I would say us. Trust Reverend Sam too in spirit. But trust that we have thought about this process, that we have spent hours looking at your maps and hours of one-on-one meetings with you and small group meetings with you and meetings with the board and meetings with all kinds of people. And we have thought about this a little bit. Trust us. Even if it seems imperfect, and it will be imperfect. Number 2, recognize that this is our tool. Don't tell us how we should be doing it. This is the way we're going to do this. Your board invited us here to do a thing, and we're going to do a thing. If we didn't, if we just let you guys roll the way you wanted to roll, there would be no disruption to the patterns that you've been in, and there would be no change. So let's take the risk and do something different. The third thing that I'm going to ask you to do, speak from your heart. Use I statements. Don't ascribe motives or feelings or words to others. Number 4, when it's rough, wonder. Reverend Laurel delivered a message to you about curiosity. Engage your curiosity when it gets rough. Say, ooh, what's my role in this? Or, ooh, why am I feeling really ticked off right now because of what they said? Why do I feel defensive? Why do I feel this? Be curious. And the last one is confidentiality. We're going to be doing some pair sharing here today. You are, as always, welcome to take the learnings from the room, but not other folks' stories. Do not go out and say, ooh, you won't believe what Carol said. That's not what we're doing. You can take the learning, though, that sometimes we operate in a fear of open conflict, and I have seen and heard that it results in X kind of behavior from people. That's not telling somebody's business, okay? So can you do those 5 things for me? All right, so here's where we're going to start. On the wall, as I mentioned, are the things. I'm going to ask you to move to the thing that you feel you were impacted by. So, when you get there, tell a story of one of the ways that you were impacted by this problem. And then you're going to ask one another, tell me a story of the way you contributed to this problem. We're going to do that for about 15, 20 minutes. So move to the area, move to the stone that you felt has had the most impact on you. And when you get there, find another person, pull your chairs so that you can have a conversation with one another. And if you cannot sit with your partner, spouse, child, best friend, try to be with someone different, someone you're not riding home with. And feel free to drag chairs around, do whatever you need to do.
What I wanted to ask is, will this be posted somewhere so people who are able to make it here?
Yes, it was on Zoom, but we'll also send it.
Okay, good.
Yes. Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot to come back to the front.
No, that's okay.
It'll get posted.
Okay. You can make an announcement because if a person's partner
As
isn't
part
here.
of our closing. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. If you end up with an uneven number of people in an area, you can do it 3, but we're hoping you'll do 2s, not large groups. Do it 3 if you have to. Okay, not a 4, you guys. 2 and 2. 2 and 2? Is this the 2 and 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. You guys got your 2 and 2?
I would like to work with Jody because
Okay. You're not riding home together, are you?
No.
Okay, just checking. All right, now that you are in your pairs, here I will remind you of the prompts. Okay, settle down for just a minute. I'm going to remind you of your prompts for the pairs. Tell a story of one of the ways you were impacted by the problem. Hold on one second. You got suspicion? Hold on, suspicion. Hold on. That's okay. So the first question you will share with one another is tell a story of one of the ways you were impacted by the problem, and then switch and tell the story of the way you contributed to the problem. And if you need to drag chairs, please feel free to, so that you can be comfortable. Start.
Well, I'm sorry, but we don't like you. I mean, how are you supposed to interpret? Yeah. Great. I can just see you sitting in church.
Hi. Oh, just peachy.
Peachy.
I say that all the time. How are you?
Good. Kids upstairs. Got someone up there with them.
How many are here?
5 today.
Okay. Is that about normal?
Depends. I mean, sometimes we have 6 in the nursery and a few others. Anyway, it seems a little low today.
Attendance overall. Lower than one I expected.
Everything needs a project. We get in. People don't own it. I did a service on New Year's Eve day. Some folks who couldn't make it wanted to watch the recording vaporized. I was really disappointed. Last one, them not getting to see. For the moment in that service, Betty Bomo Seiden got up there, 94, and then left the congregation. And it was to be able to serve this up in this, it's a her power. It's great. What a moment. But I still carry it with me because I was there. The folks who weren't there, and that's just tricking, it shouldn't be hard. But that's something we have to do as a team. A built-in process. Yeah.
This is an extra piece of the fellow.
Of the problems? Uh-huh. No, yeah, and we're going to send it back. So let's see. What do we got?
That's the next step. But at least you got it.
So,
You don't need to go into the why. What it was for. What you have. You sure have. Someone's older.
You have 4 minutes left.
Showing lunch and I haven't been able to do that in a way that's really trying to step away from worship association. And now I'm going to be able to fill in the gap. Made such a difference in my life to be able to develop the ability to talk to them.
everything. And so asking without the leadership that makes an institution be there, it won't be there. We don't have this
I heard rumblings about
Let's begin to wrap up your conversations. Okay, it looks like this turned into a group of 4 instead of 2s and 2s. We're done. We're done. Oh, that was fast. We're waiting. Okay. You said it. Does it take 4 minutes now? Okay. You guys know what you did. Oh, you got it. Okay. Okay, let's finish up our conversations. There will be more opportunity for this. And I'm going to ask you to move again, so can I come back? Come back, good UUs. Come back, come back. Come back. Okay, don't move to a seat. Come back to, stop talking. How's that? Stop talking. Okay, now, you have had the opportunity to share with one other person or possibly 2 other people the thing that impacted you the most and the thing where you think you contributed. But for some of you, the one spot on the wall might not have been the answer to both questions, right? So, this is a silent, can everybody say silent? Walking meditation or moving meditation. And we're going to ask you to move to the sign that shows the thing that most impacted you. The stone that you are carrying that is the heaviest, that is weighing on you the most. Where have you been hurt by a particular problematic? Silent moving to it. Silently move to the thing that has been the heaviest for you. The stone that's been the heaviest burden for you to bear. That's worn on your heart. that's made it difficult to stay in community, that's been troubling you. Maybe it's the one that you've shed tears over. Many of you have told us that you've shed tears. For some of you, it's made you angry. For some of you, it's the thing that's so heavy, you're 5 minutes from walking out the door. And if that weight doesn't come off your shoulders, you're not going to be able to stay. You want to stay, but it's literally killing you. Move to that thing. Back there. Are you there? Let other people see you in that space. Institutional fatigue and erosion. This is the stone these folks have been carrying. This is what's weighing down their hearts the most. Mission and vision. It's only a problem for one person. 2 people. And it doesn't mean that it's not an area of concern for more of you, but that's the heaviest stone for 2 of you. Exceptionalism for this group. Pride and confusion. Suspicion and authority, or lack of clear authority. The absence of mutual accountability. Is it you guys, or is it all of you? It's you guys. Okay. Grief, loss, and endings is heavy on your hearts. Fear of open conflict and separation. Take a look at who's standing there. These are people you know and people you love. Look at their faces. Whatever you thought of them 6 months ago or 8 months ago or 12 months ago, maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't. Maybe you made it up. Maybe they were pretending. But right now, people are sharing with you their truth of the thing that is hurting their hearts the most. See them in their pain. Don't look away, don't look down. Look one another in the eyes. Acknowledge. Accept. See one another. Just take a minute and look around at each other. And it might start to feel uncomfortable. Think about how uncomfortable it feels if you're the one carrying a stone. And each of you is carrying a stone. Each of you has been impacted or hurt or frustrated in some way by something. ask yourself, how can I release my judgment of others? I'm standing in this spot. Well, how come so-and-so isn't over here? Don't they know? You got to release that judgment. How can you own your own place? Are you one of those people who've pretended nothing's wrong? In reality, your heart's been breaking? Own it. Tears are fine too. I see a few of those, and tears are fine. This is the space where we're hoping you will become really, really real with one another. You got to be able to do it now. Thank you. Now, there's a flip side to this. For all the people who have been carrying a stone that is heavy, who have been feeling hurt by something, each of us might be feeling that we contributed to one of these problems. What did we contribute to? None of us is perfect. Sometimes we're very, very well intentioned. But rule number one is good intentions only go so far. Impact is more important than intentions. Where have you had the most impact? Which one of these problems did you contribute to the most? Where do you need to take responsibility and be accountable to the community? Move silently to that space. Silently to that space, please. We got a vibe, don't break it. Move to the thing that you think you had the most to do with. If you think you were responsible for creating that feeling of exceptionalism, that's where you go. If you're one of those people who acted out because of your own fear of open conflict, then go there. If you're one of those people who caused grief to others, go over there. Go to the spot where you think you contributed the most to the problem. Look around you. See who's there. See who's owning up to their own stuff. See the courage and the bravery and the honesty and the realness that your friends are showing you in saying, yeah, I contributed to this atmosphere of suspicion of authority. I contributed to the fear of open conflict. I contributed to the sense of separation among us. Look around, see who's there. Look at each other. Look at who's owning up. And realize that with these artificial sides that you all thought you were on, sometimes people who were on different sides are in the same group right now. Which goes to show you, you really didn't have sides at all. You were all just acting out on the same group, the same themes of problematics. Remember, we said the people aren't the problem is the problem. What is the problem that the people are reacting to? And that reaction could be contributing to it, and enforcing it, and perpetuating it, as opposed to trying to stop it. While you're in this space, looking at one another in the face, ask yourself, how can I release my judgment of others? Here they are, accepting their responsibility for having been part of a problem. How can I release my judgment of them? How can I release the judgments I'm holding about myself? What am I going to do differently? How am I going to be different so that the next time I'm not the one who causes the problem of so-and-so or that contributes to this problem? I'm not the one who contributes to the thing that breaks my friend's heart. These are more than just signs on a wall. You saw in the first group, these are things that people are carrying. And you are acknowledging your role in perpetuating situations that caused harms to others. And that's a hard thing to do. And it's an important thing to do to be able to move forward. Let that soak in for just a minute. Now I'm going to ask everyone to either take a seat or return to a seat. Just sit down somewhere. Sorry, I'm in the way.
Not let people know that Reverend Savage has COVID
It's fine.
because people have been exposed to severe conflict.
Before you get too carried away, here's the next part. Now, Reverend Sam and I debated about this part. We went back and forth and thought, oh my gosh, are we opening up the big can of worms? What are we going to do? What are we going to get if we do this? Next part. and we decided that it was important to do. So we are taking a risk in doing this, and we are trusting you because we think it's worth the risk to hear that thing that each of you wants to explore about yourself. Keep in mind that when you do this, other people will know what it is you think you need to explore. But we think that the risk won't be too great if we don't end up with people telling us their whole life stories. And there's another reason why we want to limit how much people are sharing. We want to hear from everybody in the room. So, your answer needs to be short. One sentence. Okay? Think in like 15 to 20 seconds, a sentence, not a story. And the prompt for it is, the problem I contributed to that I want to explore is what? And we're going to pick a place to start, and then we're going to pass the microphone around. The problem I contributed to that I want to explore is, and that does not mean I want to explore how somebody else did wrong. This is the problem I contributed to that I want to explore my part in. I'm owning up that I had a part to play in this thing, and this is the one that I want to explore. Okay? Would anyone like to start? Knowing that wherever we start, we're just going to go around each table. You want to start here?
Standing over there a minute ago, I just realized I've had this narrative in my mind. Rev Soto's ministry had a hard time getting off the ground because COVID hit right there. And I realized I dropped out for the 2 years of COVID, so I contributed to not connecting with them and supporting their ministry.
So the problem I contributed to that I want to explore is, what is one of the problems on the wall? What do you want to, which one of these?
It has to be one of them. I would just say not showing up.
It is one of these. Could be separation, could be absence of mutual accountability. So we're going to ask you to name a problem. The problem that's on the wall, one of these things that I contributed to the most, where I want to explore my part, is fill in the blank.
The problem that I feel I want to explore going forward is separation. I feel very much like Joe that I dropped the ball. I wasn't comfortable, and so I just didn't show up.
The problem that I feel I contributed to and want to explore is my own pride and confusion. I would add that manifested in wanting to be liked and wanting to be right.
It's hard, you guys, this is hard, but I'm gonna be honest and say that I combine with unclear authority and accountability, and I use my efforts to make things happen in an ad hoc way, and I go around official structures without clear authority or accountability. Well, I think I'm accountable to the mission, but maybe I'm wrong.
We have a request from Zoom that as you're doing this, could you please say your name before you speak?
This is Chris Wedding Kroll. The problem that contributed to, that I want to explore is fear of open conflict, of just having hard conversations.
The problem, Ingrid Mittermeier, the problem I contributed to that I want to explore is that I didn't force myself to wrestle with our real, true, combined mission and vision, which led to us saying things that didn't really capture, I think, the truth of what we really feel. So I think I glossed over that and didn't dig into that.
The problem I contributed to that I want to explore is?
Pat, an absence of mutual accountability. Oh, sorry. Pat, an absence of mutual accountability because I'm a commitment phobe.
Rebecca, I'm saying fear of open conflict and disagreement because I was confused about what was going on and unsure of the person that we chose and unclear on how we choose people, and that kind of made me fearful, I guess.
Mary Lane. The problem I want to explore and that I feel I contributed to is twofold: absence of mutual accountability and fear of conflict, because I feel like I should have done more to support Pastor Soto in encouraging developmental review in a non-confrontational way, and I didn't do what I should have done to be more assertive in finding a way to make that work.
Alexis Walensky, help me with the prompt. The problem that I contributed to that I want to explore is institutional erosion, and specifically newcomers feeling the vibe is off, and leading to me not volunteering for things I could have.
I am bypassing our clergy circle back here. The problem I contributed to that I want to explore.
Carol Wood, I would say separation, fear or lack of desire to get involved on multiple levels and not supporting the pastor.
David, the problem I think I've contributed to is the burnout of the people in leadership and my lack of participation and support.
I'm Vera. I'm a visitor, only here for a few more weeks. I did not contribute anything to this congregation or group. I have, however, contributed to others, and I think it's largely my mission and vision.
Is it specific to this congregation, not other congregations?
So I really don't have anything further to say.
Corliss Smith. I think the problem that I contributed to was separation, and I'd like to explore it. I think that I should have talked to a lot more people than I did about what I thought was going on. And I think my egotism got in the way, that I had to be, I knew what was right, and I was going to go forward with what I thought was right.
The problem I contributed to that I want to explore, Leslie.
It's just, the problem I want contributed to and want to explore is suspicion of an unclear power and authority. I butted heads with the minister a lot. I could have chosen a different way to try to reach mutual understanding instead of retreating to my against the wall thing of detail and having to be right.
suspicion and unclear power and authority. I'm really confused about how shared ministry actually works. And so I kind of blunder into it. Roxy.
My name is Tamara, and the problem I contributed to, I guess, is the mission and vision. I have felt for a long time that our mission and vision is impractical, and I have not communicated that well enough that I cannot support putting in the amount of time and effort that it seems to take to have it work. So going forward, I guess that I have limited energy, but I could contribute to that.
Debbie Kaplan, the issue I would like to explore more and have contributed to is both accountability and absence of mutual accountability, and also fear of conflict. I tend to tell people what I think they want to hear, and that didn't work well in all of this.
I'm Joyce, and I'm making up my own category because I can. Dang.
No, you have to pick one of these.
Okay. Okay. Let's go with.
Even if you pick two.
Okay.
It has to be from among these categories.
Okay. I'll go with fear of open conflict and disagreement because I don't necessarily want to hurt anybody's feelings. I'd rather comfort them. So that goes to the grief and loss, which is also something I've been feeling because I can't fix it all and I want to. So my own category, control.
No. Lovingly, sometimes telling people no and not letting them do it the way they want to do it is the best thing we can do for you. So, no. And I love you.
This is Jody. I would like to follow Roxy around the concept of shared ministry. I think that part of my contribution was feeling that we had a shared understanding and definition of shared ministry, and that it was easy to see when it was not being adhered to. And I've realized that we don't. And I think that that is cultural work that we should do in the congregation, that we have a shared definition and that we come to it together.
That category is suspicion and lack of authority.
Hi, I'm Janet. Well, I'll go with that. Suspicion and lack of clear authority. I would love to know where our authority comes from, and I would like it to be from all of us participating, including me.
The prompt is the problem I contributed to the most is that you want to explore. So are you saying that you contributed to that suspicion and lack of authority and lack of clarity in their ministry? That's the prompt. What's the one thing that you contributed to? Where do you need to work on you? Not what should the congregation do. Where do you need to do work?
I don't understand why Jody didn't have to answer that question, and I do. I didn't hear it. She said she didn't have a clear idea.
So this is one thing we're not going to do is defend or disagree with what other people said. So Jody's answer was, I contributed to this lack of authority, this suspicion of lack of authority, because I thought I knew what shared ministry meant, and clearly I didn't. That's what she said. Is that not what you meant?
I said that
Yeah, I thought we had a shared understanding and I was wrong. We do not. That was the mistake, or that was the way that you contributed to the problem, by believing that other people had some level of understanding that, or had the same definition that you did. So, not you want to work with the congregation to figure out what shared ministry is, but how did you contribute? Was your contribution to the problem of lack of authority and suspicion because you were operating under assumptions that everybody was on your wavelength, or was it something else? What's the problem that you contributed to where you want to explore?
Okay, this is Janet. I believe that I have an understanding of mission and vision, and I don't know, and I think that I probably have a belief that it's shared, and I'm going to explore it.
Okay. What problem that the church is having do you think you contributed to? Through your own misunderstanding, your own actions, through your own assumptions, through anything else? What problem did you contribute to? Or are you saying that you didn't contribute to any of these problems? That's the prompt.
I feel like I've been working against all of these problems for the last year as fast as I can and as hard as I can, and I'm sure I've failed.
The prompt is the problem that I contributed to, that I need to work on, that I want to explore for myself is.
Hi, this is Sherry. The problem that I contributed to that I really want to work on is fear of conflict. I've been in a position of hearing different people speak and haven't always been honest because of that.
Hi, Josh. Problem I contributed to, I think, is grief, loss, and endings, and I would like to explore that.
Sarah, the problem I contributed to.
Because of confusion, and fear of conflict, I created more separation and more confusion and suspicion. What I want to contribute to is This is the problem I caused. I want to help make things clearer for all of us, so we understand, for instance, what shared ministry or what all that stuff, so we have better understanding.
Okay, so you are owning the authority, you are owning some of the mission and vision and some of the fear of open conflict and the separation. So what have you all contributed to? What problem have you contributed to? And where do you need to do some personal work? What are you going to explore?
Katrinka, and I contributed to fear of open conflict. I tend to speak to the people that I am most familiar with and have the longest standing relationships with, and tend to avoid conversations that might be conflictual. And I'd like to work on that.
My name is Jill Bowers. As a relative newcomer, I still feel I've contributed to the problem of fear of conflict, coming from my own fear of speaking up, my honest opinions, for fear of not being accepted or listened to, and I want to strive to overcome that to be a full participant.
So my name is Molly, and I contributed to suspicion of unclear power and authority, especially when it came to understanding what shared ministry was and what my job on certain committees was and how it was perceived or how it was supposed to go.
Hi, my name is Clark, and I don't want to, it's around open conflict and disagreement. I typically am either, working with people and getting along with them, and I guess as another person said, just working with the people that are like-minded. But then when I get frustrated enough with things not going as I think they should be, I get grumpy or take a time out. It's like, no, there's a medium in between there that I need to find.
Hi, Bill Blakely. I stifled congregational discussion and growth because of my fear of conflict with some of my best friends with whom I have disagreements. I just stifled myself, and it hurts.
The problem, this is Jane, that I want to explore, and I feel I contributed to knowing not very much about the whole situation, but it's separation. And by not, if I felt that there was really dissent and conflict, I didn't ask questions and find out some more information. So that's how I contributed.
I'm Nicole. I contributed to a lack of renewed collective understanding of why we come together and where we're headed by focusing on influenceable, important efforts like services and groups and tasks, instead of the big picture and the connections between us.
Mission and vision.
I'm Nancy, and sorry, I chose separation. If I talk about the church, I can get emotional. When I first moved up here with Tom, I was not interested in being part of a church again. I'd done that when I was young. And with his persuasion, I started coming more and more, joined a covenant group, and actually started feeling like I had real friends here in the church. And my own family was kind of having a lot of issues, so this became a really safe place for me to talk about things. And even though I didn't understand the conflict, I didn't have any attachment to Reverend Soto. And so when I'd hear negative criticism of her without really understanding the issues, I'd go along because I wanted that person to keep liking me because I liked them so much. And I think what I want to work on is I can't contribute in ways that people like my husband can contribute in, and other people who are really had a lot of experience with dealing with issues of finance and things like that. I was a kindergarten teacher, and so I want to work on my feeling that I can be valued and accepted without that.
Tom Smith. I contributed to the separations and silos because I found the two silos I really enjoyed being part of, and I separated myself from most everything else.
Dick Bailey. I contribute to institutional fatigue and erosion by not being open to the new and fresh ways of doing things. As much as I realize that bringing people along, having them grow in their individual ministries has been so important to me. There are times, more than often than not, when I want the kids to stay off my grass.
The problem I contributed to that I want to explore.
So I can see that I've contributed to separation and siloing. And what's become clearer to me is that it was also fear of conflict. It's a number of you have said it. I know who I feel comfortable with, and so I just stayed there, even though I could see that other people were not having what they needed addressed. I didn't want to get involved.
Heather McLeod. The problem I contributed to that I want to explore is institutional erosion, because I prefer to make things happen around the official structures without clear authority or accountability to mission and people, and hang out with Tom and his silos.
I am Ingrid Severson. I am a newcomer to the UU here in Oakland. So I'm just going to speak to in general.
This congregation, something that you contributed to in this congregation. And if there isn't anything, that's okay.
I'll go with that. I was going to speak to in my life generally, a pattern that I have contributed to is a fear of open conflict and disagreement. And so speaking to that, that's something I'm going to explore and deepen in my life and hopefully bring to the congregation.
This is Evelyn Seidman. I felt I contributed to institutional fatigue and erosion during the pandemic by being on Zoom often rather than coming to church in person. And I felt a bit fearful of Reverend Soto and was not always present for the first Sundays for racial justice, although that was important to me.
Hi, I'm Arlinda, and I think that one of the things I probably contributed to was fear of open conflict because I did not express my experience of what was happening here. Instead, I distanced myself. It took me a while before I felt that I had a constructive suggestion. At that time I wrote a letter to the board, but it was rather late. And so anyway, I think we need, you're not asking what okay, thank you, bye-bye.
Dennis Rowcliffe. I feel like because of fear of open conflict, and that I would in future prefer, I would want to communicate more with people that I don't agree with.
I'm going to go. You did. The problem I contributed to that I want to explore
I'm Patsy, is institutional fatigue. And that's because I have tended to be somewhat more distant from the community at times and not as involved, so people get burned out because they're doing all the work. Oh, so they're doing all the work, and that contributes to institutional fatigue.
Amy Carlson. The problem I contributed to that I want to explore is fear of open conflict. I feel like I did not always speak from the heart or my opinion for fear of furthering conflict or for others' views of me.
Lucia Savage, the problem that I contributed to that I want to explore is grief, loss, and endings.
Donna, the problem I contributed to is fear of open conflict. I want to stop shutting the fuck up. And I recognize speaking up takes practice. Hopefully, I won't get to the point of being a pushy old broad. But anyway.
Suzanne. And the problem that I contribute to is the fear of open conflict and disagreement. I would not speak up because I didn't want to upset the dominant culture. And so, because I perceived people knew more than I did, even though they probably didn't. So I want to do that one, and the grief, loss, and endings. And I hope to be a pushy old broad like Donna.
I'm Carol Lane, and I'm relatively new, and the issue I contributed to is separations and silos. Encountering people talking about the different issues, it was difficult, and I didn't know always how to handle it, and so I'd hang out in silos. I like that, and I will look at that more, how to handle when there's us and them.
Hi, Leslie Skipa. The one that resonates with me that I'm contributing to and working on is separation. As a mixed race, disabled person in this congregation, I often separate myself, and that to preempt any kind of separation that I am accustomed to feeling for coming from the outside. So I will make an effort to start from a place of grace for all of us moving forward.
Hi, Dave Rudy. Fear of open conflict and disagreement. Like Carol, haven't been here a couple of years. Yeah, we intentionally came here knowing that UU churches are the place we need to build community. And rather than take sides or participate in discussions and disagreements, it's easier to sit back, except in a few cases where I'm working with people and we can speak a little more clearly because I've gotten to know them better. But for the general congregation, probably not so much.
I'm Mark Ramoser. I too am relatively new, but I must say I had no idea there was a discussion around shared ministry. I always thought that was kind of a given. Being so certain about that, I've contributed to the problem of suspicious minds. Da-da-da-da-da. Don't quote.
Okay. This was hard for many of you, and I appreciate that you took the question seriously because it's an important question for your congregation. There's not one person among us, and I include myself in that, and Reverend Laurel and Jeff and everybody, there's not one person among us who hasn't had some kind of impact on this congregation in one way or another. Some of us more directly than others, but all of us, every single one of us has contributed in some way to what you have right now. Good, bad, and different, right? So take seriously that thing that you're willing to own, the ways that you have contributed. Take it seriously. Befriend that problem. Ask yourself questions. What did I do? I saw this wasn't right. What did I do to make it worse? How did I not help? Because the answer can't be, well, I didn't have anything to do with it. Sometimes not doing anything is doing something. It's the difference between malfeasance and nonfeasance. Sorry, the lawyer in me never goes away. It's a thing. So own this, right? And with this, we're giving you homework. And this is going to come out over Chalice Chatter. And Reverend Sam has been furiously texting me, which is why I'm looking at my watch, because I can see my text on my watch. I'm not trying to rush you along. But to say that she's at home working on a special newsletter piece for you all that will contain an electronic version of these problem themes so that you don't have to hang on to this piece of paper. We want to make sure that the folks who weren't here today get it. So it'll go out by email. Along with this homework, you are being asked to befriend and explore a problem dynamic that you contributed to. This involves writing, journaling, making something, taking a picture, drawing, singing, praying, or talking to someone else. You get to decide how you're going to explore your own complicity in the problems. But we're asking everyone to do it, and we want proof. This was important because too often we give lip service to something and then we leave and we say, I'm not doing that. Oh, I'm so tired of Hope for Us telling us what we got to do. Right? We're not doing this for us. The Davis congregation wouldn't mind if I were there today doing something, right? We're doing this because we love you and we want to support you. So we hope that you will take the gift that we are trying to give, which is the opportunity for you to explore your complicity in the situation your congregation faces. However you decide to do that work, really, you could take a picture, you can draw, you can do whatever. Email it to us. Send it to us. Or if it's something that you want to speak, maybe you do spoken word. Let us know so we can fit it into a service. Or use your iPhone, iPad, take a video and we'll play it, or share the link to everybody. But we want evidence. If it's something so intensely personal that you don't want your name attached to it, we can keep it anonymous. We absolutely will do that. Okay? That's your homework. Any questions on your homework? By the end of the month. By the end of February, yeah. By the 29th of February. Question? Okay, hold on. I can't hear the question. Yeah. The people on Zoom have Reverend Sam with them, so they are able to participate with her. Thank you for thinking about your friends. But yes, we are thinking about them as well. Any other questions about the homework? Dick. Whatever you have decided you want to do, so if you decide you wanted to draw a picture, take a picture of it and email us the picture. You're going to email it to us. Yes. You are. You are. I can't take it more seriously than you do. If you decide you don't want to do it, that's your choice. That's totally your choice. This is something that we are offering to you as a way to work through this. I watched you all stand here with solemn faces and admit what has hurt you, where you have been hurt, and how you know you have contributed to others' wounds. Knowing that, knowing that you felt hurt yourself, and knowing that you've contributed to another person's hurt, I would think would be motivation to do this. And if it's not, I don't know what else to say. Yeah. Yes, so however you are exploring this, maybe your way of thinking through things is by writing poetry. Write a poem. Maybe your way of thinking through things is by drawing pictures. I'm a person who draws. Send us the picture. Maybe your way of doing this is by finding a person that you saw standing in a particular area and saying, "Can I talk to you?" You don't have to tell us exactly what you said, but send us an email and say, "This is how I'm exploring my complicity in the absence of mutual accountability by calling up this person who stood there and said that was the area where they felt the most hurt." You don't have to tell us who you talked to. You don't have to tell us what you said, but you need to tell us that you reached out and you tried to make that conversation happen. Okay? By February 29th, it's even a leap year. You got an extra day. Clark. They are coming to Sam, to Reverend Sam, and to me. We may be able to fit them into another service. If you tell us, "I don't want this shared under any circumstances," we won't share it. But the work that you say you're doing helps us figure out how to help you. If February 29th rolls around and our email inboxes are empty, then that tells us that, okay, they're not ready, they don't want to, or we have to come up with something different and change the whole program, right? If we get to February 29th and everybody is game, then we'll know, okay, we're ready to move into possibility. Full speed ahead with the next phase of this. So that's why we need this information. It helps us help you. And it will guide the way that we move forward together. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Just because I'm working on structures, do we have any, I would love to do this with people. Do we have a structure or way? No. Okay.
No structure. No structure, because this is what are you going to do? This is you sitting down and getting quiet with yourself and saying, how do I own up to this? How do I own up to this thing? And considering how many people said fear of open conflict, I'm wondering how hard it would be, or how easy it would be, to do that work in a big group. Would you all be afraid to speak up, right? I mean, I'm not saying that jokingly. If that's the thing that is hard for you, we're suggesting, start with yourself. Look inward. And say, what do I need to do differently? How did I contribute to this? Wow, I didn't even know that this thing I was doing was hurting people until I saw 10 people stand up in front of that sign. Whew. That's what we're asking you to do. So no, there's not a committee or a structure or a group. This is your work because only you know how you need to do it. Whether that's a picture, a drawing, a poem, spoken word, whatever it is. Okay? Sound like a plan? All right, 2 other things that will be coming up. We do still have pastoral care available. Reverend Jamie is still available, and their email address and the link to schedule individual pastoral care sessions is on that flyer, and there are other flyers around the church. We will be creating or hosting another BIPOC event. We'll get that on the calendar. We are running out of days, right, to get things planned as regional assembly and general assembly and annual meetings come up. Just the number of available days is shrinking. So no, we're doing that. March will be, depending on how you guys deal with the end of February, March will be on relationship repair and possibilities. So own your stuff now. I'll leave you with a rereading of our Adrienne Marie Brown. It feels like everything is broken. We must, each of us, fix our attention on the nearest wound. Conjure within us the smallest parts of ourselves that are still whole, and be healers. Heal with words and prayer and energy. Heal with money, clean water, time, and action. Our visions are ropes through the devastation. Look further ahead like our ancestors did. Look further. Extend, hold on, pull, and evolve. Go in peace, my friends.